All right, hello everybody. This is your boy Rexon Max. How's everybody doing today? And today we actually have a special guest on today. Someone that we've actually been speaking to online for a while now, but this is our first time actually seeing each other face to face. In the world we're in now, meeting in digital face to face is basically the same thing as meeting in personal face to face. So So we have Street Fighter enthusiast, Street Fighter lore specialist, Stephen Main himself of Stephen Main Street Fighter lore. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's actually great to sit here and talk to you. We've been talking a little bit before this, but we both have been talking about how excited we are for this. I've known you on Twitter for a while now, and I think we've actually spoken in the past about actually working together or doing some type of content together. But this is the first time that it's actually come into fruition. So how are you feeling today?
I'm doing. Hey, man. I'm doing great, and it's actually like you're my first video interview, and I couldn't have asked for a better guy to do it. So I appreciate you bringing me on.
I appreciate it, man. And I had to make sure I got my Street Fighter shirt on. I got the different versions of Chun-Li on. So, and I knew you was coming with yours, so I was like, I know I got to go put on mine right quick.
Yeah. In fact, I had like two shirts I could put on. I have this one, and I have one by a person named Maddest Mao on Twitter, and she'd done this really cool gold and black one with G on it, and I'm thinking, do I want to wear that one or do I want to wear this one? And over time, I just picked this one because I thought it popped out a little bit more. But the other one's a really nice shirt and it was like very limited edition. But this one has the Street Fighter logo on it, so I don't know.
Yeah, that shirt reminds me. We just did like 2 months ago. We did a tournament to where we actually gave away like prizes for like trivia and stuff like that. And we actually gave away like a throw blanket, a Street Fighter throw blanket. And then that shirt actually reminds me of that blanket. It was like more like the retro Street Fighter with the logos and stuff on it. So it
Right?
was pretty cool. The guy he said his cat enjoys it now, so he gave it to his cat.
I I'd sleep on it too. Okay, that's so. Yeah, I'd like to see the blanket like at some point, but I will. But I'm here now, so
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get into it, man, because I'm sure like I'm sure a lot of people who've seen the Stephen Main lore, brand is probably actually want to know the person behind it. So it'd be great to, because it's unique to like see a person who's like really in touch with the lore side of like
right.
games. When it comes to fighting games, many people are just kind of into the like, ooh, I just did a super on you. You more into the flair and stuff like that, but you're more into the lore. So let's go ahead and get into your story. So tell us about like your history in gaming. Like how did you get into gaming? And then how did that transition into Street Fighter?
I'm an old school gamer, so what ended up happening was very first game I played was Space Invaders in Atari, and that was back in the 1980s. When I was like 3 or 4. I don't know how old I was, but I was young enough. But after you know, learning that all of these other games are out there, I do remember playing Street Fighter when I was the very first Street Fighter when I was very young. Um, and specifically remember making it a couple of levels in, and so here I am at like a 5-year-old kid, like just bashing buttons on Street Fighter One, just trying to trying to win, and I've ended up losing eventually, but it was kind of fun, and that kind of started me off when Street Fighter Two came along, and when I was younger, there was an arcade machine in a restaurant, and obviously Street Fighter Two was the big game at the time. And specifically remember that machine. It had the original 8 characters: Ryu, Ken, Chun Li, etc. Um, and I would go over and play it, and I had a few other chances to play it at other arcades, but I remember specifically the Sega Genesis version. It was Street Fighter. It was Super Street Fighter 2: The New Challengers, and that was the very first game I could sit down and actually play through on my own and actually find out more about each of the different characters. And so the first person I actually picked up was Cammy. She was very easy to play, and she was very, for a younger person who was trying to figure out their way through the game. She was always one of my top picks. And then Street Fighter 2 learned a lot more about the lore and the characters behind the story. And I'm like, this is a very good game. And then Alpha came along, and my favorite game in the series still is Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Yeah.
And it brought, yeah. Yeah, and you had everything you could have asked for in that game. You had a story, and even though it wasn't the quality that you see today, of like anything in depth, at the time, it was like, oh, so there's these things going on with each of these different characters, and so yeah, the endings were brief, the story was brief, but it told you a lot. In those little quotes, in the little in the action that they did at the end, yeah, everybody was trying to kill Bison, but everybody had their own reasons to do it. Some were more noble than others, and I think my two favorite endings in that game would probably be Rose's, where you find out that her and Bison are connected, and then the other one was Karine when she blows up the base with the satellite. And I feel like those two characters really made an impact on me as a person, and it was like, just seeing that, like, this is cool, these are great characters, I want to see more. And then Street Fighter 4 came along. Nobody liked Seth, but at the time, but it was like, he was another character, and it was like, I'm okay with this. I understand everyone's complaints about Seth, but it was like, he's a character. I dig the story. I like what they were trying to do with it. And it just kind of went from there. It was like, okay, so this game has a story to tell. And then okay, so what ended up why I started the blog in the first place. There were two reasons. One, I wanted to make a writing portfolio, and that was number one on my list. But the second thing was, nobody else was writing Street Fighter theories. So I'm a big fan of a guy named MadPat, who does the Game Theory channel, and the thing with him was that he had made one theory on Street Fighter on Chun-Li spinning bird kick, and he was going over the science with them. Like, this is cool. I dig this, and that was all he did. And so 5 years later, 5 years later, I'm still sitting here waiting for my Street Fighter theories that'll never come. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, I was really hoping he would do this. I was really hoping, he would go more in depth in the lore, because there was a lot there. He went a different direction, and that's fine. But still, I wasn't getting the content that I wanted to do, and so one day, G got released. That was back in 2018, and so I sat down and wrote it. Now, before that, I did the Karina's Ingrid theory, and again, that stemmed over my frustration that I wasn't seeing more Street Fighter related content, more Street Fighter lore content. So I made the Karina's Ingrid theory because I thought, hey, this is something that people need to really check out. I think I have like 2,000 views on it, like over 5 years. So people are watching it, they are looking at it. And then I had to stop, but then G got released, and so I wrote a theory on that, and that went viral, and I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I'm never gonna do anything like this again. And then I decided, okay, so I'm going to write a couple more theories, a couple more articles on. I wrote one on Necro, I wrote one on Elena, and then the next one that got big was one I wrote on Necallii, and I'm like, you know what, this might be something I need to continue to do. So I did that, and just kept writing, and then all of a sudden, now here I am in 2022. And now people consider me like the lore expert on Street Fighter, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. So that's kind of the story of Main Street.
Okay, see, that's you touched on so many interesting things. Like,
yeah.
One, you was talking about playing an arcade in a food store, and it is crazy nowadays. People don't really understand that, like, how accessible games are now. But when we were growing up, it was like for me, like it was growing up. You only saw like a game when we went to the local Pizza Hut, and they would have like MK, and you would play like MK there and stuff like that. Even though I was like really never much of a big fan of MK, but yeah, you would always see them like in food restaurants and stuff like that. Um, so you touched on a little bit of why you actually started doing the lore theories, and it was kind of inspired by MatPat. Um, so, but I want to understand like what actually drew you in to lore, because like I was saying before, most people when they play fighting games, like when I was playing, my first Street Fighter was Street Fighter Alpha 2. So when I saw that, it was just, like, ooh, that Hadouken is cool, or ooh, I want to be able to do that Shoryuken and stuff like that, to somebody, or seeing Akuma's Raging Demon, it was just like, I'm sold, I gotta play this. So what is it about lore that made you fall in love with it, and not so much the action in the game that usually would keep people into the game?
That was Alpha 3. For one thing, I was never really a competitive player. Never had any interest in doing that. So when I had so I was in the console. I had the console games, and normally I would play these games by myself. And sometimes with other people, but most of the times I was just more enthralled with the design of the characters. And then when Alpha 3 came along, it was like this game has a story. And and after that, it was just like, okay, I'm more interested now in this story, because they're telling me something that I didn't know was there. So yeah, like everything was kind of short at the time with like Street Fighter 2. There was a story going on. It was there, but it was just like, it was more in blurs. But then Alpha 3 came out, and it's like, oh, this is deeper than I thought it was. And that was the turning point for me, where it's like, you could really make a good story based on these characters. So when I was so Alpha 3 came out in 99, so I was like 13 or 14. So I was a fan fiction writer for a while. Didn't publish anything online or anything. It was just for me and in my amusement. But I wrote thousands of pages in based around Alpha 3, created my own characters, put characters in certain situations, uh, that kind of thing, So it was more of a learning process for me, writing all of these writing all of these different stories based around these characters. And so for me, it was like okay, I over time it was like I know these characters well enough where I can understand their quirks and their personalities. And that ended up coming into lore theory, because it was like at some point I'm like, what's the intent of the developers? What is the story that they're trying to tell me, or that the story that they're trying to tell? And that's another thing when I started making the theories, where it was like, okay, is this the like for example, were they inspired by Ingrid to create Korean the way they did? And then in around 2020, I think it was, so like a year and a half later, after I had done the theory, and this was before G came out, they released the Ingrid costume, and I'm thinking to myself, I may have been onto something. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so another thing is, so there's a fighting games weren't really known back in the day for like their story and stuff like that. Back in the arcade days, it was mostly just like, hey, get these people in, give them the shove quarters into the machine.
Right.
So, and to get little kids to do that, you really didn't need much of a story. But there were games back in older times. I'd say older times, my goodness. But back in the day, like Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur was a game that was very, very much known for its story. Like Soul Calibur 2 probably was the game that story was so amazing that I looked at it. It was one of the first games I was like, I think I'm really into the story for just how much they really focused on it. So was it really that Street Fighter was just your first love as far as fighting games, that you didn't like more so focus on games like Soul Calibur, who already had a flushed out story?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Because it was like that was my love. And the other thing about other games, it just didn't strike me the way Street Fighter did. It was um Soul Calibur is a good game on its own, but like for me, I would compare all the other games I would play to Street Fighter, because that was my first game, and that was like my first fighting game, and I kind of looked at it as sort of the gold standard. And so when I looked at what Soul Calibur was doing, I'm like, am I interested in weapon-based combat system? Not really. Yeah, Soul Calibur has a very good story, and but I think the other thing with Street Fighter 2 is that you have the ability to really let your mind explore, versus Soul Calibur, where they kind of spoon feed you everything, and it's like, okay, this is
Yeah.
yeah. So it's to me, it's like Street Fighter has more potential because of that, and that to me is like one of the big things that also appeals to me with Street Fighter, because it is malleable enough for someone like me to want to say, hey, what's going on? I feel like there is a tale that they wanted to tell with these characters, outside of just, oh, put your quarters in the slot. But whereas Soul Calibur kind of just told you what the story was, Street Fighter allowed you to explore, and that to me is something that I think that's part of part of its appeal. So.
Yeah, definitely. I get what you're saying. Like Street Fighter kind of leaves it more open to the imagination, that it's not so much like Soul Calibur, where it's just like, look, you don't have to guess the story. Here's the story. You
Right.
know. So that leads into one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Now, some of your lore theories you read, and you'll see like the theories that you have. I don't want to say left field, but they're kind of wild. So you
Right.
would sit and read some, like the one you did on G, for example, where you basically said like, look, he's basically the devil, you know. So it was, or you have some other theories that you give, like bonkers examples of just like where you think the story is going. Like, so what makes you willing to think that it is that far? Because most people would say like, man, it's Street Fighter, it's a family friendly game, there's no way they're gonna like be pulling inspirations from like these crazy wild things. Like, it is not possible. But what makes you feel like yes, they are, they just covering it up real nice?
That's exactly it. They're covering it up real nice, because you have to understand something with game developers is a lot of them do it. Okay, so that there's a lot of character artists in Capcom on the Japanese side. They have they did other works, shall we say, some of the more 18 and up kind of things. So you have to think from that mindset, where it's basically, okay, so these guys are making that kind of material, and so they're coming in with that kind of mindset. Now, they're very good artists, that's why they brought them in the first place. But you also have to keep in mind that the humans, the human personality, the human dark side of people is there. So whether it's consciously or subconsciously, it's going to be there. So, for example, like one thing I do get some heat on is that um, Hakan is making oil from his children.
Yes, that's
That
that's another
right. So, and the reason so for me, it's also kind of psychology, because it's like whether or not they intended this is how it ended up. And it was like, oh, okay, so here's the evidence of yes, Malik is a common name in Turkish, but it's also this particular god. And I start finding these things out, and I'm like, wait, what? So, but it's just kind of how it kind of came that way. So if you're trying to write a theory, and you start finding out all these different things about uh, this particular name or this particular symbol, and again, I go into things with sort of an open mind, where it's like, no, it can't be that. I don't go in like, oh no, it can't be this, or yes, it has to be this. It's more like, what does the research tell me? And so if Malik is based off the god, Hakan's wife is based off of this god Malik, whether it's intentional or not, it's there. And it's like, so you have to kind of go along with that particular symbol and what you actually end up finding. So it wasn't a matter of oh, I did this because I thought it would be fun, and because it was, but it was more like, this is what the research was telling me. What else am I supposed to think? So so I would sit down and I would sit down and write like, hey, so here's what I'm seeing. Yeah, it's out of left field, but a lot of times it surprises even me where I'm like, wow, this is really into left field. But I'm not going to stop it, but because this is what the research actually says. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I mean that makes sense because
yeah,
it's a lot of times we'll see like things that are made like say for example someone created a book about the childhood of like a certain child, like let's just say Caillou for example. If it came out and it was like, hey, I made Caillou because my childhood was so bad, I just really wanted to make somebody with a great childhood. The inspiration is something that you would totally not think like Caillou came from. And like you said with humans, like, hey, Street Fighter might be a series that's family friendly, but a lot of these things that people are inspired by probably aren't necessarily,
right,
like somebody,
exactly,
yeah. So that makes sense
yeah.
when you put it like in that perspective.
Yeah, and then that's how I look at it because it's like, yeah, it's family friendly, and then you look at the actual stuff that's there, and you have like the Dow Project in Shadaloo, where it's like, so he literally kidnaps a bunch of women, of young women, like 16-year-old girls, and then turns them into into his personal soldiers. It's like, I don't know. You really want to call that family friendly? Okay, but but it gets darker, as you go into it, and it's like, and that's the thing about Street Fighter, that kind of psychology is there, and so I've been trying to promote like a hashtag like Street Fighter hashtag Street Fighter is a horror game, and because when you look deeper into the story, it is, and there's Bison with his with the child soldiers. There's Seth with the amalgamation of his body, basically being a puppet. That's all psychological. And then you have G coming along, which is sort of like the culmination of all that dark psychology into one person, where it's like, yeah, you don't know what he's doing, but you know he's doing something, and so that kind of plays into the rest of that sort of human darkness side, where it's like okay, this guy is he's very wild, he's very flamboyant, but he's got that sinister side to him. Yeah, he's doing the family friendly thing, but he's doing something that's not very family friendly. So that's kind of how I look at things, where it's like yeah, it's a family friendly game, but it's so much darker than people want to give it for it. So I kind of want to tap into that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Dragon Ball Z. We used to think that was family friendly, but Android 16 and 17 were literally two kids who were like kidnapped and turned into robots. But when you were young, you didn't really think of that. You were just like, okay, cool, new villains are here, and it's like, no, it's way deeper than this. But as long as y'all ain't asking no questions. So I want to get into like if I could say, the alpha version of your life, since we know Street Fighter Alpha is like the prequel to a lot of stuff. So growing up, were you a child that was into like a lot of conspiracy theories, or like in the like things that have like in-depth stories and stuff like that? Like I know for me growing up, I used to love hearing stories of like people's background stories, like where they came from, or like crime thrillers and stuff like that. So I'm asking because like as someone that is so into the Street Fighter lore, were you ever into things like that before coming into gaming when you were younger? Were there things that you were so interested in story before video games?
Well, I've always been interested in video games, first of all, but it was like alongside that, I've always had an interest in the macabre. So it was I have for example, I do watch a lot of true crime documentaries, things like
Mhm.
that. So that's definitely something that I could, because I love looking at like at where it's become kind of a form of entertainment now, like things on serial killers, things like that. And so if you want to like really catch my eye, it's like, tell me the story of Ted Bundy, tell me the story of Gacy, um Jeffrey Dahmer, those sorts of serial killer. Give me Eileen Wuornos, um give me that kind of story where it's like I can sit down and just go, wow, this person was really touched on that dark side of people, and we look at people like that as sort of um as the worst of humanity, but that's part of it. These people were human, and it was like, so this is the side that we never want to really touch on because we find it so atrocious, so darkness. So we kind of push that away. But the truth is, it exists, and that's why something like true crime appeals to me, because it gets into that dark side of the people's consciousness, and it's like, and for me, it's just fascinating because that that people would go that far, in order to really not do much at all, because and there's even nowadays there's sort of like and you start seeing like mass shootings all over the place, where you're gonna get cats all over the place, and it's um and it's sad, and it's tragic, but it's like people are willing to go that far, and it's like, it's sad, it's tragic, but it's also on the other hand, it's like, what are you really doing it for? You're going to end up you're not going to, yeah, your name's going to be in the paper, but you're not going to end up enjoying it, because at the end of the day, you're never going to see what the impact that you made, because you're going to be behind bars or you're going to be dead. And it's so the first question I always ask when I'm watching things like that is just why. But the why is never really is not so much the overarching question, or a question that can be answered. It's more of, for me, it's like the how more than the why, because it's like, when you start really getting into details in the dark side of human psychology, um, that's what you find a little bit more interesting. So
Yeah, and then stuff like that, you really look at characters like Akuma or M Bison, and their backstories would have to be something either traumatic or something like so simple that just was looked over when they were like younger or growing up, that it would cause something like that. Because I mean, to be honest, like, to have someone like M Bison in a video game, his background would have to be something traumatic,
yeah,
like that you would kind of see same from these serial killers or these different people who are criminals, their backgrounds and stuff like that. So it goes back to like what you were saying before, like, hey, it might seem like this is family friendly, but for these characters to be who they are, the inspirations have to be something deeper. A lot of times in anime or video games and stuff like that, people just go bad just because it's just like, hey, that dude knocked over my sandwich one day, so I
right,
swore from then. But really, but really, if we're gonna make it like more true, like similar to human life, it's gonna be something like far more deeper and stuff like that. So, but if you also do like true crime documentaries and stuff like that, you should check out a YouTube channel called This Is Monster. They're amazing for stuff like that.
go
But
look at it. Yeah.
so yeah, we can go on to our next question now. Going back to Street Fighter, with you being like a Loris and stuff like that, did it bother you that they just couldn't keep the timeline linear? That it went from two to then three hops all the way to the future, but then Alpha is like a prequel, and then four somewhere in between, and then five is somewhere in between, but then we finally get to six and it's after three. Did that bother you? Keeping up with the Street Fighter series, or did you not mind it at all?
I didn't mind it at all, and then the reason being was because for me, it was about getting more of that lore stuff. So it was like, so even if it was all kind of jumped around and muddled, I can understand why people are frustrated over the non-linearity of the series. But for me, it was like I was actually playing these games as they came out. So it was like, um, if you're just now jumping into the game, like, I can see where it can get confusing. But since I was kind of going along with it, going along for the ride, it didn't really bother me that much. In fact, I kind of like that they did it, because it kind of brought more light onto the characters, and more insight into it. So I understand why people would be upset with that, but it was like to me, since I was already there and just kind of following along, it didn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, I know for me, like, it wasn't until man, I think it wasn't until really 5 came out that I heard people really start talking about like, man, why isn't this stuff just after 3? And I was just like, after 3, what do you mean it's 5? But they but they were really talking about, the timeline, and that's when I really started researching like, okay, so when are the timelines? What's the order? And then realizing that 3 was the one that's farther along in the timeline more than anyone else, it was kind of like, oh snap. And even me playing Alpha, I didn't realize that Alpha was the one that was before like every one of them. I didn't realize that was supposed to be like the younger versions of everyone. So that was kind of mind blowing to me when I finally did learn it. So speaking of the timeline, so we're here at 6. 6 has come out, and I've already been seeing you speculating and stuff like that on like your theories. You found Q, in the trailer that they actually released for the game and stuff like that. So, what are your thoughts on 6 right now that it's come out? Your lowest perception on
Um, okay, so how deep do you want me to go?
it. Well, I mean, I guess you don't have to go too deep. The deep they'll take you about 20 minutes to explain, but I mean, just like your just quick thoughts on it.
Okay. Here's what I'm seeing just based on the trailers. Number one, I feels like Luke is going to have a villain turn, and part of the reason for that is because Event Hubs published an article some time ago, which you guys can go take a look at that if you have to look for it. I don't know the exact link, but uh, they did publish something of mine where it was like, okay, so I noticed a pattern in Street Fighter V where it was like each season they released the characters, and like 3 of them would be like, okay, these are protagonists, and then 3 of them are potential antagonists. And the last character was Luke, and at the time I had speculated that this last character is going to be is likely going to have some sort of a villain turn. And then I saw what was going on in the trailer, and I thought that there was something kind of. It was the very first one where it was Luke and Ryu fighting each other, and he had kind of the Joker face and everything going on. He has the scars, and first thing I thought of was, okay, I might be right when it comes to the villain turn. Then it goes into the to him at the gym, and he's he's trolling. He's got the Hadouken and that kind of thing. So he's doing like being the fun kind of a character that we're expecting him to be, but. But if you really look at his story, it's like now he's not interested in fighting for strength. He's interested in fighting just to do that, and that to me hints that that over time he's going to have sort of like there's TV Tropes calls it moral event horizon, and I feel like he's going to end up doing something that's going to set him on the path towards darkness. Because he has that tragic backstory with his father getting blown up, which I think G was behind. So I did say that he's going to become a Q, and I still feel that he's in some capacity he's going to end up working for G. It could be intentional, it could be accidental, but he could accidentally or intentionally end up playing things towards G's favor. He's not now. Obviously, G is not going to be in this season the way it's looking, if you want to believe the leaks. But I still feel like there's something there that those little things are hinting towards the fact that he might actually make that villain turn at some point, where it's like he's going to go turn to the dark side, sort of like Darth Vader in Star Wars, where it's like he was good, now he's evil, and then he might have some sort of redemption arc or something like that. But we'll see things as we go along. But I do know, looking at the trailer, you saw the Mad Gear with all the boxes on their heads, fighting Jamie and Luke, and the first thing I thought of immediately was they're emulating Q. I mean, even Damned has a Mad Gear. He's now the president of it, and he wears it on his jacket, and it says President Damned. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys are just copying G. You guys are just copying G and Q, because now he's become such a big influence in that particular side of things, that now everyone is just trying to emulate the G and Q. It's like, okay, we can be feared as much as G and Q are, and so let's copy that and let's take over Metro City because we want to do what those guys are doing. So that was something that that I had seen, and then the guy that that I had pointed out, oh, this guy looks like Q. Someone pointed out, well, he's not wearing the mask or anything, and I'm like, doesn't matter. You can tell this guy's an agent. It's like, so so I'm having a little bit of a back and forth. I had a couple of back and forths with some people on Twitter, and I mean, we'll see as things go along, but to me, it was like this guy's not a background character. This guy's going to be important. There's a reason they put this man in the trailer, that particular scene in the trailer, and I do feel like there are little hints that they're dropping in the trailer, which is great for someone like me, because it's like, okay, so I'm going to go nitpick and see what's in there, and that's how it ended up how I found that particular scene anyway. I'm like, wait a minute. So, yeah, so I really think it's gonna be something very, very big. And it's like G is going to be sort of like the main particular villain of everything. And then I did want to talk about something that I had seen. I want to talk about Ibuki, where it was she's very bubbly, kind of schoolgirl ninja, and I had always wanted to well, okay, that's why it wasn't until I started looking into her story where I realized the darkness is there. Going back to the dark side of human psychology. So she's bubbly schoolgirl, bubbly schoolgirl ninja, and then you start seeing these little things where it's like, okay, so she's into midwife toads, which is a thing I found out had to do with something called Lamarckism, which is basically a somewhat disproven scientific belief where it's like you pick up traits from the person or from the generation before you. They did something with midwife toads, where a scientist painted one of the toad's toes black, and then had and then that toad gave birth to another toad, which and that toe was black, and it's kind of an interesting story to look up, but based on what I was seeing, based on who the Ninja Clan were, and everything that was available for me to take a look at, it was like, okay, so based on the research that I'm seeing here, based on the story that they're telling me, here's what I'm saying, that Ibuki may also have a villain turn at some point, because it seems like after she went to college, she seems to be still with the Ninja Clan, who don't exactly have her best interest at heart. So I feel like she's going to end up being sort of like a super soldier or a cyborg soldier at some point, and I think it's something that people really need to watch out for, because it's like, because I don't want people to this to happen and people go, well that's not her personality, and I'll be like, yeah it is, because if you see the story here that I've been writing about, it's like, she's about to undergo something pretty dark, even though if we don't know exactly what it is. She would probably be the one female character I would keep an eye on going forward, because there's a lot there where a lot of people missed the fact that these little hints that they're dropping are probably what they're going to do in the future. So it's something that I personally would tell people, hey, keep an eye on this character, keep an eye on Luke, G, and Ibuki, because these are the three who are going to drive the story in the future. So.
Okay, so I have two more characters that I want you to kind of give your quick thoughts on, because this is just for me personally, but one is Ryu. So it seems like we've gotten here to 6, and he's still in this position where it's just, he still doesn't feel fulfilled. Whatever he's searching for, whatever he's looking for, he's still just not satisfied. Like, what do you think is finally gonna get him to that point to where this heart of battle, this whatever it is that he's searching for, he's finally fulfilled? Like, what do you think what is it gonna take for him to finally be like, all right, like, I found what I'm looking for?
He never will. That's the thing. He's a static character, and one of the things that make him so kind of tough to write theories for is because of the fact that I hate saying this because he's a unique character, but he is very one note. They're not going to change his character that much. So it's like they have uh, they have Ryu and then they have evil Ryu, obviously, but that's his entire character. Because so he's not going to just say, okay, he's not going to marry Chun-Li and then have kids. That's completely out of his character. People want that to happen. People want him to be with Chun-Li. People want him to be with Sakura. Some people want him to be with Cammy. But it's like, but that's not what he's going to do. That's not what his character is about, and I don't see that happening. But his entire it was Luke who said it in the trailer where it's like the journey never ends when it comes to fighting, and it's like that's Ryu's philosophy. The journey never ends, and he realizes that now. He's not fighting for some personal goal. He's fighting for his strength, and that was actually revealed in Oro's story, where it was where he was looking for somebody who was looking for somebody who fights for the sake of fighting for the sake of strength and strength alone. He's just fighting strength for its own sake, and that was something that he revealed about Ryu, and we all knew it was about Ryu because obviously Street Fighter 3, his ending had him connected with Ryu. So I don't see anything wild happening with Ryu. He's still going to be Ryu as we go forward, but like the only real changes that I could see with him is if somebody from the outside, like Bison or G or someone else, can transform him or convert him. Otherwise, he's just going to be that one static character for all of eternity. So, because that's who is for him, it's all about the journey. So that's Ryu's thing. I did write about him perhaps being the maiden of Matsue. I had there was a channel called Street Fighter Verse who picked it up because they thought it was an interesting theory and read it. I think it was last year. So they had picked up that theory, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like, hey, these guys are reading my work and putting on YouTube. That's great. But basically, that theory was basically that he was never born to begin with, that he was a revenant. So it kind of also goes into that whole eternal wanderer theory, because if Ryu never, because people think Ryu is the son of Akuma, and it's plausible, but I don't see that happening because I don't think Akuma probably never had kids. So, but I like the idea of Ryu being literally the eternal wanderer, where it's basically at one point he was the maiden of Matsue, and then the maiden of Matsue passed away through rather tragic means, but was reincarnated and became a sort of a wandering spirit, So I feel like that's more plausible for me with Ryu, and I think it fits his story better than he was born to Akuma. So I don't know. You take that how you will, but it's like I don't think Akuma is his dad. Even though a lot of people do, I do think that this for me is a little bit more of a plausible theory and fits Ryu's eternal journey more than anything else. And I think the second you're going to ask me about Ken. You're going to ask me about Ken.
You already know I'm gonna ask you about Ken. I'm pretty sure you saw my just despair all over social media when it came to Ken. And it's just, why would they do that? Like, out of all the characters in the world, they could have did it to. Why did they do it to my character? Like, and I just want to know, like, from you, since you're the one who followed the story for so long, like, was this something that you saw coming for a while now? Like, was this something that you could have seen? Because I know people have went back to Street Fighter 5 now, and they've said, like, oh, if you pay attention to what is her name? The girl with the orb.
That's Manat.
If you pay attention to what she said to Ken and like her win quotes and stuff like that, she talks about how the two stars are in the sky and one's dwindling, and the one who's bright is Ryu and the one who's dwindling is Ken and stuff like that. But like, was that something that you saw coming from like a mile away? Could you tell this was going to happen, or was that kind of like even left field for you? Because I'm flabbergasted and I'm mad and I want to start writing letters, but I'm not going to do it.
No, actually, this is going to sound bad to say, but this is actually going to be good for Ken, and I'll tell you why. Because one of the things about when I was trying to write theories, I would always come back to Ken, but it was like he didn't really have much there to really dig into because he was an open book, and so every time I would go to Ken, it's like I would look, there wasn't really anything dark. Yeah, there was violent Ken, but that was forced on him. Um, so to me, it was like what this told me what they were doing was that they want to give Ken more relevancy because you know otherwise he would just be a family man, go home and do what, it's like, we so I understand why they did that. But you're asking me, did you see this coming? Not really. I didn't see that coming because what I had seen that those warnings that Manat had said, that I think Gil said something like that too. That they looked at him and saying he was that burning the star that was burning out. Yeah, it was there, but that did slip by me. I was not expecting this either, but I understand it, and that why they decided they wanted to go in this particular direction. So, yeah, I get why they did it, and it was like, I had honestly thought that what was going to happen was that Ken wouldn't play much of a role at all. But I'm glad they did what they did with him, because now it makes him more relevant. People are talking about him, and it's like, so now he's divorced and he lost his kid. Now what are they going to do with him? It's so I for Ken's story, I know a lot of people are hurt about it, but it's like, no, I understand why they did it. Because honestly, they had nowhere else to really go with him.
Well, that makes sense. I'm glad they had a perspective, like maybe this will. But I mean, hey, like this. A divorce and losing your kid is something that's like so. I'm like, dang, whatever you went through, because the wife and kid had stayed with him for. But I mean, this is definitely something that will basically be a turn of events for it. I mean, I've seen people actually come out and say that they're hoping that Sean will come back and he'll be a character that's there to help Ken through whatever he's going through and stuff like that, to kind of get him back on his feet and stuff. But yeah, man, I was like, man, like y'all done did this to Ken, and it's Adon probably still not coming back. Like, come on, man. Like that's both of my favorite characters right there. Just kind of did any type of way.
Adon might come back, but I don't know what they do with him. So it's like we'll see where that goes. I mean, looking at the thread that we have now, like there's no point of him going back to Sagat anymore. They may go that way where it's like, oh, Aiden is still trying to challenge Sagat, but Sagat has just kind of stepped away from everything, and now he's going to his own Satsui no Hado powers and whatever, and they may do something with that. Maybe they'll bring Aiden in to say, oh, well, that's the power I want, but it would just be kind of rehashing. If they're going to bring Aiden back, they need to they really need to create something new, and I think they're very, very capable of doing it, because look what they did to Ken. So, but yeah, we'll see where this goes. I mean, I'm very excited for Street Fighter 6, and one of the things that Nakayama ended up saying was that he had done something like with the developers roundtable, and I was watching that, and he said something along the line where it was so I was watching these other video games, and I realized just how important story is to video games, and whether it's fighting games or anything else. And he's like, so one of the things I wanted to do was really focus on Street Fighter story, and it's like, and when I heard that, I'm like, he gets it. So I'm like, so I'm excited for what they're doing with it, because World Tour looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to play it. I really am, and so we'll see where this goes. But man, it's gonna be Street Fighter 6 is gonna be something special. It's gonna be big, and God willing, I'll be right there writing theories as we go. We'll see how crazy it gets.
Yeah, Street Fighter 6 is definitely gonna. You could tell they learned their lesson from Street Fighter 5. Like out the gate, this is jam packed with so much content. So, but I have a few more questions for you. So, not too much more. Your time will be taken, but so
that's fine. Ask away. I've got all day.
So Capcom, they actually followed you. Capcom Fighters, they followed you. So how did that feel to finally like all this work you've done, like that the creator of the game finally like reached out to you and actually saw you and acknowledged like the stuff that you were doing? Like, how did that feel?
Man, like happiness, just happiness, like sheer joy to finally get that kind of validation. And I to have that on my to have those guys following me now, where it's like, okay, because they don't follow very many people on there, like 1,500 people. It's not a lot on Twitter, and to finally have that sort of validation from that side of it meant a lot to me. It really did, and it was like, I'm excited, I'm thrilled, and I like what Capcom Fighters does as overall and what they do with the fighting game community, because I do know that they also do cover other fighting games as well. So it's not just them. It's not just straight up Capcom games. They do sometimes they bring in Soul Calibur and Tekken, and then they put it on the channel because they respect the fighting game community. And to have someone who is that a corporate channel that does something like that, it means, I don't want to call it changing of the guard, but they're doing something very special. And for them to follow me back, it meant the world to me.
Yeah, we saw the excitement when you saw about it and you posted it on social media. It was happy to see you get that validation also, because the work that you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
It's fantastic work, and to put in, I'm sure this takes hours and stuff like that to do these theories, because the area you go into, you have to like do the historical research of like the different things that they could be pulling inspiration from. So yeah, man, and I mean that lets you know like some of the stuff that they're seeing, they're like he kind of got it. Like
Yeah.
letting some of the stuff that you saying, you kind of got it. So so I have this question for you. So what's one lore story that you've actually written that was so surprising to you that even you were shocked? Like I can't believe that I'm actually going this direction, but it actually seems like this is what it is, and it's even kind of like mind-boggling to you.
That was the Hakan one, the Hakan oil one. It was like, wait a minute, it was so wild to me that I like just looking at the research, but it was like, no, this is where it's going, so I got to kind of sit down and write it, and I'm just like, and I finally got done. I'm like, wow, this is dark even for me, and but that's where it took me. There was that. Actually, when I started the Ibuki theories, it surprised me how much was actually there, and because everyone looks at her as like sort of the bubbly schoolgirl, going back to that, and it was just like, no, there's a lot more there than people thought there were, and wasn't. So I'm looking into it, and I'm like, wow, this is dark. Comparisons to Link Kurosawa, that kind of thing. G was pretty dark. Necallii was interesting because his story could actually go several directions, and and obviously I feel Necallii did get screwed, and it was like, he was a good character, great design, and they did nothing with him. But it's like, okay, so I will say this, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent, but that's kind of what I do sometimes. But one thing that I've been kind of pitching. Now, I'm not a coder or anything. This is not like, oh, I'm definitely going to do it or anything, but it's an idea that I feel like needs to happen, and that would be making Necallii sort of making Necallii Kareem's rival more than Ryu's, because I think it fits more. Like polar opposites are better than just kind of throwing Necallii into Ryu's story. But you have Kareem, who is sort of the the corporate princess, manufacturing industry. That's what she works with, and she has all of the space age technology, versus Necallii, who is more of cosmic, like sort of a cosmic power, kind of like G. There might be a connection there between those two, because There is some symbology between Necallii and G that you look up, but Necallii is he's of the earth. He's more about the spirit of the earth. So why not put those two together? Uh, because I think it would be something far more interesting than just Necallii eats the Kuma and dies, and then Kareen is just kind of doing, just kind of laughing on the side. So I think they would be like perfect foils for each other because they're so opposite, and because she's prim and proper, he's a feral beast, and I feel it's sort of like a Beauty and the Beast thing, kind of a kind of dynamic between those two. And there would be sort of a personal stake too, because he tried in Street Fighter V. He tried to eat Nash and Rashid, and then they ended up jumping on Kareen's plane, so that would kind of tick Necallii off. And then on the other side, Kareen would not like Necallii, because he's definitely a feral beast. And there was something else I had written too, and I can't remember what it was, but it was but I think like those two would be I really feel like there could be something there if they wanted to run with it, and one of the things that, now going to what I was about to say, was that why not put those two in a game together? You have Kareen and Necallii together in a game as a protagonist and an antagonist, and just kind of build a story around that. So again, it's just kind of an idea. What do you think?
I mean, I feel like at this point, just for people to be like, "Oh, let's reuse for," it's like, okay. I mean, but like, it's so many more like characters. And I feel like with you, like when I first saw Necallii, I was like, man, like this could be like so amazing. Like, who is he? Like, what is he really? It was like the possibilities could be endless. But then after that, I mean, it was just we got him in the Street Fighter V and actually saw the story, and it just seemed like he was just basically getting beat up and tossed around a lot and stuff like that. So I didn't like that. So I actually agree with what you're doing because it's better than what they got going on with him right now.
like
Honestly.
again, right? So yeah, but I do feel like there's more of a connection, at least from what I'm saying, that Karina and Necallii could do something a little bit better than just let's just have Necallii go after let him be the feral beast. Everyone likes him. He deserves a second chance, and I feel like give him that chance. I feel that that's where they need to go, because honestly, I know Karina's been very underutilized, and it's like she's got this very dynamic character. People absolutely love her as an overall character, and I feel like having her still around, and having her do more things in the future, I really want to see them really do something with her, and I think Necallii might be the right person. That whole relationship between those two, if they decide they want to pursue it and make that happen, I really do feel like that's probably one of the best directions they could go, at least for those two characters. And then you have like 70 more you have to figure out. So it's like, but that's my personal opinion. I do feel like they would be that it would create a heck of a story. I do feel.
All right, so this is my last question, and it's kind of like two questions in one. So Daigo actually came out and he actually said a character that he hoped doesn't return in Street Fighter 6, and basically he hoped doesn't return ever, is Solomon from Street Fighter Alpha 3. Now we know that he hasn't been back since the Alpha series period. He hasn't made a return. And Daigo was actually saying he didn't like him. He'd hope he didn't return just from his what he was able to do as a playable character, competitively and stuff like that. They thought it was kind of cheap. But from your side, the lower side, is there a character that you feel like you just hope doesn't come back? Like you just like, oh, I mean, I just don't like this character, the direction they went with him. Like I'm fine if he never returns.
Let's see. I'm actually okay with most of the characters. I like from a gameplay, like, okay, as a spectator, I don't like watching Akuma. He's got a good story though, so he can stay around. But it's like if I were to personally put one person say where I don't want to see, it would be Akuma, but he's too important to the story. So it's like, so I get it. He's not going anywhere. I guess the only person that comes to mind would be El Forte. And but even that, I kind of like him because he's he's funny. He's a comedy character just like Dan and Beaky. And I really don't I really like when they bring a new character in, I always try to make sure that this character is uh, I always end up liking the characters. You know what I mean? So it's like there isn't one character, let's say, oh, get rid of this person, oh well, we don't need them anymore. There's a reason they put that character in the game, and and for better or worse, um, they're there. I will say that there are certain stories that I don't like. Um, for example, another very unpopular character is Rufus. But I like Rufus I like Rufus. I don't like the fact he's that much of an idiot. But he's just like, well, Kid Masters, Kid Masters, Kid Masters, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, um, you have you got an interesting character here, but he's so single focused on just Ken, where it's like, and everybody to him is like he's like face blind. So it's like okay, so Cammy is Ken now, and Bison is Ken, and Ryu is Ken. He looks like you could do more with him than that, So it's like give him, you can do more with him too, and it's like, but I don't hate anybody, like to the point where, oh, don't put them in, don't never bring this character back again, because everybody has their own story, and everybody had, there's a reason they're there. So no, I don't have a character that I can say, never bring them back. But I would prefer it if everybody stopped playing Akuma. That would be great, because I'm tired of that. So, but yeah.
Well, one character that everybody seems to hate that they went with the direction of in Street Fighter V is Birdie. It seems like they've just made him into like a complete idiot. How did you feel about that?
I like him. I really do. He's fun. His gameplay style is fun, and then that was kind of the point with Birdie. Yeah, he's an idiot, but where else were you gonna take him? Were you gonna make him a dark Birdie, and there was no other place they could really go with him. But no, I like Birdie. I like he was fun. I did write a theory on him, and the title of that one is what a little birdie told me. But I do feel like he, as a supplementary character, he's actually a great supplementary character, because what he can do is enlighten you on other people's stories, and that's kind of where he can actually fit in. So, but no, I like Birdie. I like what they did with him, and he's he's an idiot, but I mean, but his story is actually important, and despite what some people would think, it's not in the overall grand thing, in the overall grand story of it. Not so much, but he's there for a reason, and his story will enlighten you on some of these other characters, and it's like I feel like he's going to be. If they keep him in that supplementary role where it's like role where he's basically just sort of I don't know, I like Birdie's like sort of a narrator in a way, where it's like his presence is like telling you about these other presences, whereas Birdie the character himself is relatively simple. He can still bring you into into the story as sort of that outside looking in, and that's what I appreciate about his character. So
Yeah, back in the Alpha series, he didn't have that perception or look as an idiot at all. Like in the Alpha series, shoot, he was one of the characters I was more so afraid to go up against. Him, Sagat, and Bison were one of the top three characters. I was like, I just have issues with these guys.
right.
So, but yeah, that's all the questions I have for you, man. I really appreciate you doing this interview with us. This is the first actual sit down interview we've done in a while. We actually stopped doing them back last year when the holiday season came. Both everybody took like a break for like 3 months. We took like a 3-month hiatus. So this is our first one back actually doing it. So man, it's one of the greatest, best interviews we've done. I mean,
Thank
You
you.
know, your lures. I mean, the work that you do, man, is amazing. I mean, we check it out. I mean, amazing. He even did a TikTok video, you know, based off your information with Adon. So
I
yeah,
actually
man.
helped him with that. It was so he asked like, "Hey, what do you know about Adon?" I'm like, "Okay, here's what I know," and then I just kind of bombarded him with that. It's just like, so, yeah. So again, I appreciate what he does. I appreciate what you do, and you guys are just great. You're doing great, and I love your channel, and guys, keep it up, man, because you're doing like you're doing what you're meant to be doing with this, and I feel like I I'm gonna be watching, and again, I want to appreciate you. Thank you so much for bringing me on. I really appreciate this because this was fun. So
Yeah, man. We appreciate you, man. And hopefully this is not the last time we'll have you on TV FGC in some form or
oh,
fashion, you know.
I'd love to come back.
Especially with six coming out, you know, it's a lot more
Yes,
stuff to do.
yes, I know. And but dude, World Tour is gonna be fantastic, and I'm just gonna tell everyone when this, play Street Fighter. One other thing I want to throw out there.
Yeah, let everybody know where to follow you and stuff too.
Oh yes. Follow me at I have my Twitter at Stephen Main Vox, StevenManeVox, and the Vox came from the idea that I've also done voiceover work, but I haven't done that in a while. I actually did do a Street Fighter parody from a guy named Captain Supreme on there, so go check that out. That was in April. If you can always reach out and ask me for the link, I'll share it. I have to find it, but I'll share it. And then I did want to shout out one other person, two other people actually, because I think they're going to appreciate the product placement I have here. This is this is from a guy named Pete Fighter. So if you're watching this, go follow him, because he's a great artist. Does a lot of stuff over at Street Fighter Legacy, and I have some of his pens that I wanted to show off, and then the other one. Is Udon Entertainment, and I have this very nice Shadaloo pen
Oh, that's
that
what's up.
yeah, so this was a limited edition, and I think Matt Moylan, who's the director of publishing over there, I think he'd appreciate me dropping the fact that I want you guys to go buy Udon product. Now, I'm not sponsored or anything, but I like Udon Entertainment, and I want you to like Udon Entertainment too. So if you're into Street Fighter, that would be go give them a shout out and say hi. So
What's the actual website that they can go and read?
Main Street Blog, MANESTREET blog.com, mainstreetblog.com, and that has all of the that has all of my theories on it right on the homepage. And there's also a media page where I've had all of the that's called Main in the Media, and that has all the places where I've been interviewed or I've been mentioned. And this interview is going to go up on that page when it's up on YouTube. So
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that you should actually say the name, because you know some people, if you don't say it in the video, we're gonna have it in the description. But some people,
right,
you can say it in the video and be like, "Well, what's the website?" So,
yeah,
but
no, you got to do what you got to do, right? So
yeah, but thank you guys for watching. You know, this has been us interviewing Stephen Main. You know, make sure you guys go and check out all his content. It's amazing stuff, I'm telling you. And you guys have a nice day. We'll see you on the next interview.
bye.